Okay, so after reading this, first I was very interested in this article. Second, I felt a little ashamed because I've always considered myself a math person, and I do understand the standards for mathematical practices. And I also understand about equity, but I've never really put the two together the way that this author did to offer the equitable practices. And so then I started questioning myself, saying, well, why haven't I learned about these things in the way that this author portrays the practices? And so I actually enjoyed the reading. So the first sentence, I'm going to start with my sentence first, because there was one sentence that really stuck out to me. Let me go to it. All right, so this is on page 9. It says, in the Chicago Public Schools College Preparatory Curriculum for All Initiative, for example, although the policy ending remedial classes was implemented quickly, and schools successfully eliminated low-level coursework previously common among students labeled as low ability, virtually no change occurred in failure rates, test scores, or the likelihood of students entering college. And so that really struck me. The first thing I thought about is, one, we already labeled the students low ability. And so to erase that from the teacher's perceptions about these students is extremely difficult. And so then I thought about, as these students progress, even though you started a new initiative, these students are progressing through schools with these already set labels. And so I wondered to myself, did the already set labels play a part, even though you changed some things, did that play a part in what the teacher delivered in the classroom from that point on, or the way the teacher saw the child? So even though the curriculum or the strategies that were taught to her with this new initiative, did her perception of them impair her from really pushing and challenging that student, because she already saw him or her as a low ability student? And so just the word low and pointing that word at a child nauseates me. And so then as I read through, I saw on the equitable practice number 7, so I'm going to read it. It says, examples of the practice: having high expectations, having high academic expectations while maintaining students' cultural and psychological well-being rather than accept deficit views about students' intellectual potential. And so that that really put into play for me that, one, no matter where the teacher was, or no matter what is being taught, if the teacher sees the child as somebody who has the ability to perform, then she will treat him that way. And so no matter how easy or tough the concepts may be, she will help him or her find a way to push through, to persevere. And so the whole fact, I'm going back to that first sentence, the whole fact that they assigned that label, that low ability label, to the students in the first place, it really had me wondering, did the teacher's perceptions of that child impair her own teaching and lessons, activities, what she designed for that child? And so then I wondered that when they were really thinking about and researching that particular situation, did they even think about the fact that all of that existed and how that impacted that student's learning? So the second thing, the paragraph, it's kind of lengthy, but I'll read it anyways. So the paragraph that really got me was 13-14. And so it was on drawing on students' funds of knowledge as they make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. So it says, consider the cell A in figure 1, marking the intersection between equitable mathematics teaching practice 1, draw on students' funds of knowledge, and S&P 1, make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. To support students' development of this S&P, that includes students making sense of problems by explaining to themselves the meaning of a problem and looking for entry points to its solution, as well as in analyzing givens, constraints, relationships, and goals, and in continually asking themselves, does this make sense? Teachers could explicitly construct problems or adapt problem context connected to students' experiences or community or family practices. For example, Turner et al. Describe lessons perspective teachers created that elicited and connected to students' cultural funds of knowledge across multiple components of a mathematics lesson. In one lesson, prospective teachers design a series of mathematics tasks about different ways to spend 25 tickets at a carnival on rides or food. Choosing how to use tickets at a local carnival was known to be an experience most of the students had engaged in, and the task was designed to support students in understanding that a number can be composed of a variety of add-ins. In this example, students made sense of the situation by considering things like their favorite rides and the fact that they did not have enough tickets to go on to go on every ride and to eat all their favorite foods. Each student came up with different combinations of rides and food that met their own interests to try to maximize use of all tickets. The prospective teachers noted that students engaged in the task in multiple ways, finding different entry points, and showed increased engagement in comparison to tasks they had used previously. Research demonstrates that students benefit from instruction that draws upon their cultural and community-based knowledge. Moreover, students are more likely to persevere in a problem that is of interest to them and to make sense of a problem and identify an entry point if a task is introduced in a way that includes discussion of key contextual features. Okay, so this paragraph makes me reflect on my first mathematical reflection for this class, and one of the things that I did say was one that it was important for teachers to help students make connections between the math and the real world. And the other thing that I really think is important is that students are given that opportunity to also work with each other and to make sense of things, to become problem solvers. And so as I read through this, that really reinforced my belief in group work, and not just work, but task, things that make us say, that really make us think, that make us dig through the math. In the case of this was a task, and the children had to actually work together. And this was so real world, because if you think about it, kids really love carnival. But the whole fact that they had to sit there and think about, okay, how many tickets could I get with this much money? How many foods could I eat? And so it made so much sense. And this doing that actually connects the math to things that they know, things they relate to. Kids love to eat. Kids love to ride rides. Kids love carnivals. That's their thing. And so giving them the opportunity to engage in that discussion, and giving them the opportunity to really sit there and think about the problem at hand and to find the multiple ways. I mean, think about what you just gave to them. You didn't just give them math. You gave them a real world life experience. You gave them an experience where they're safe, because if they failed at the task, you can help guide them back into the right direction. Therefore, they don't really fail. They've tried, they've attempted, it didn't work out real good, and you start it over. And so, and at the same time, they're kind of learning about money because that you need that money to be able to get all those tickets. And so doing all that it really makes the connection between who they are, where they are, the math that you're trying to teach them, and you're giving them a social outlet where they're communicating, where they're having to reason, they're having to really think and use their brain. And so doing things like tasks or activities, those really get kids going. And I'm going to tell you something, doing something like what this teacher asked these students to do is 10 times better than sitting there doing a worksheet with 10 word problems that are all the same. I find that these types of tasks are just much more engaging for students. Okay, so then the next thing, I did the sentence, I did the paragraph. Oh, the page that was the most intriguing. Okay, so the thing that really got me was the practices themselves. Like I said, I was very familiar with the mathematical practices, and equity, but I had never heard about equitable practices. And again, I was kind of mad at myself because I said, wow, either I'm not keeping up with the times, or maybe I need to read a little more too. I don't know. But I'm really glad that I read this. I was very intrigued by the whole the practices themselves on page 11 and 12. But there are some things that really got to me. So the thing that says recognize that student voice has implications for power and authority and builds agency. There's another, this is on part 2, establish classroom norms for participation. And it also says set up and guide discussions. Okay, so I sat there and I thought about this. Now, I'm very lucky because I work at a Leader in Me school. And so our students, first our teachers are taught how to incorporate our students as helpers, as teachers, as peer mentors, as facilitators of the classroom. And so it's expected at our school that students do more than sit and get and take notes. They take an active part, an active role in every classroom, from math to science to social studies, even PE. And so when I read this, I thought about my own classroom and the roles that students take. And so in knowing that this is one of the equitable practices, I felt good. I felt very positive about the flow of my own classroom. I also, it's on number 3, position students as capable. It says to share power in the classroom by allowing students to provide meaningful input in making decisions about classroom practices, curriculum, and assessment. Again, like I said, I'm a Leader in Me school. Students play a very active role in our classroom. In fact, when I observe other teachers' classrooms sometimes at other schools, not at my own, but I think about those Leader in Me components. And after reading this, I can see the connection between the Leader in Me and the equitable practices, that we are empowering students to take responsibility, 1, for their learning, and 2, for their classroom, 3, for their school, and 4, for their community. And so in doing so, I think that over the course of their schoolwork, if this is something that is constantly being reinforced, that we will find that as these students become adults, they are more productive and more able to deal with problem situations or social issues.